Hello and welcome to this quick tip. This is about how to cut holes neatly in foam blocks. Now, not necessarily for this, because actually I'm going to show you how to recess something into this foam block. We're actually going to sink this little thing here, this little pencil sharpener, into the foam block. However, this is exactly the same process that I've used to put something like this GPS into the wing of this diatone ripper R690 so that it is nice and flush. Now this is for a Patreon of mine, a gentleman called Brandon. So Brandon, thank you very much for the question. I have covered this already in a number of my builds, but I thought as Brandon is asking for it, let's actually show you how to do it. Now the process that I've come up with is one after many years of trial and error. The big thing that you need for this is an extremely sharp blade. This is an X-Acto. This is a brand new X-Acto blade. If you try and cut into foam and it doesn't just make that nice, clean, easy kind of stroke, it feels like it's dragging, or it leaves little jagged tears, then it's blunt. Throw it away, do yourself a favour and get a new one. Trying to cut foam neatly with anything but a super sharp blade is just an exercise in futility. Now the way that I tend to do this is, first of all, I just get an idea how big the piece is. This is just a foam block out of a piece of packing. I don't actually have a wing that I need to sink anything in. So we're just going to put it on there. And what we're going to do is we're lightly going to score using the very tip of the blade around the object, just to get an idea of how big the hole needs to be. And you can see we've got a very, very light bit of scoring. Hopefully the camera's picking that up. Now I've got a rough idea how deep I need to go. I'm just going to back the blade with the back of my fingertip. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rerun over those lines vertically with a slightly soaring motion down to that right level, using those little scored lines as a guide. And the other thing I'm going to do is try and make sure that at the end of each run that I am making sure that the blade itself is kind of upright. So even though it's actually, the blade is at an angle, by the time you get to the end it starts off like that and ends like that, so it's a nice clean cut. We'll do the other two ways as well. And the reason we're doing this is so that the corners match up, and then we can start to take out the material from the middle of the cut. Like I say, this is great for things like GPSs, stuff like that. So now we actually have, hopefully the camera's picking that up, a little bit of a square ready to sink it in. Again, it's easier going slightly under, and then you can cut thin slivers off with a really sharp knife and slightly over. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut on a diagonal now. I'm going to cut a wedge out. I'm going to go figure out how far I need to go in. And I'm just going to run along, again with a slightly soaring motion, and as I get to the end, flatten it off. That hasn't quite released, so I'm going to go a little bit deeper. And I'm trying to get down to roughly the corner, and hopefully that's going to come loose. I'm just going to go around sure to make sure that I'm completely clear. And then the piece should just lift out like that. So there's one half of it already. So now you can see we're kind of roughly at the depth that we're after. Going to turn it round. We're going to go in from the other side. And again, trying to get down to more or less the right depth. I'm going to go and do it that way so that that piece comes out. So now we have, I'm not sure if you can see that on the camera, we have like a little pyramid at top. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut the ends off those bits. And because we've kind of cut around the edges, these are just coming out. So now, hopefully you can see that I've put it under the light. We have the recess there. We're going to do the other end, and what we're going to end up with is kind of a is kind of a lump in the middle. That's the trickiest thing to get rid of, because what we're going to do is we're going to have to try and just, using the space that we've got and the very sharp knife, cut that ridge out. There we go. So you end up with something looks a little bit like that. Now this is the point where I'll test fit. So we're close, but we're not quite deep enough. We're a little bit proud. So we'll pull that out. What we'll do on the little rises that are still in there, we'll again cut those out. So now we'll end up with 4 little mountain peaks rather than 2. And it gets harder as you get towards the edge. If you really need to, what you can also do is you can just kind of tease out the little bits of foam that you need, and then we have a much leveler bottom. Now I can push that in and test fit it. Yeah, that's spot on. And that is how I cut holes for things like GPSs and stuff in wings. Now the other trick, of course, is then if that was needed a cable, how do I cut the cable run for that particular space? The hard thing is going to be getting this back out now, of course, because it is a friction fit. Is what I tend to do is pull the blade out of the holder a little bit like that, and then cut in so that I can see the blade. I think you can see it there in the corner. Cut a little channel, go down, cut a separate channel, cut the sides. This is horrible for all of you that have that thing where you don't like to hear the noise of what the foam makes. There we go. Again, use that trick of going to the corners, and then using something like a set of tweezers, you can actually punch that piece of foam out, or you can pluck it from the other side, and eventually you'll end up, there we go, with the channel for the cable. So if that's a GPS, that's the cable that would then go into the body of the model. So Brendan, hopefully that answers it for you. That is how I make the holes. Again, I have shown this process in other videos in some of my build series. I'll put links down below so you can go and have a look, but that's how I do it. The big trick here is get yourself a brand new blade. If it feels like it's dragging at all and it doesn't just slide through the foam, it's blunt, throw it away and get another one. Thank you for spending your time today watching that video. You can find me in all the usual places on social media, and if you're trying to learn about a subject, then check out the playlist. All of my videos are organised into easy to follow playlists that, if you're trying to learn a topic, will take you from the basics right the way through to some pretty advanced stuff.